Hi, everybody. It's Mark Rushton of MarkRushton.com. It is Saturday, August 14th, 2021. And yeah, it's been a little while since I've made a video, probably a week or so. And I really haven't been making too much lately just because I've been super busy with other things, a day job and the state condo and other matters, and acting as a consultant for other people's projects and things that they're doing, needing some help on. So, that all takes time. So I'm back here, though. This is sort of I kind of look at this as a one-way conversation with the camera, so trying to keep myself motivated as an artist, both as a recording artist and as a fine artist. And you can see wonderful paintings like this in my eBay art store. Just go to markrushton.com, click on the link to the eBay art store, and you can see beautiful paintings just like this. So this video is called 200 Drawings as Motivation. 200 Drawings as Motivation. And we'll get into it here in a little bit here. But just to preface what I kind of want to talk about and how we get to let's just dive right in. I'm kind of winging this anyway. So I have mentioned many times before, and let me bring it over here, the rules for teachers and artists, the Immaculate Heart College Art Department rules. And of course, this is attributed to John Cage. He actually only had number 10. Sister Karita Kent came up with the other ones, but they worked together on this and presented this. And she lived it, and he popularized it and made it. It was a kind of a joint project there, I guess, from what I understand. And of course, these rules are great. These rules are really good. Of course, my favorite one is number 7. The only rule is work. It's a standout one there. But all the other ones are really wonderful too. Number 1, find a place you trust and then try trusting it for a while. It's good. And of course, number 4 is consider everything an experiment. And that's what I'm heading into right now. And I know I talk all the time about how I'm making playlists and all that sort of stuff as a recording artist. I make playlists from my catalog. I've really been doing it in earnest in the last 10 months or so, and really kind of stepped it up here in the last 6 to 8 weeks. Just because now I know where my listeners come from as far as my music is concerned. 70% come from playlists, both ones that I've made and ones that other people make and share. They call public playlists. And not just on Spotify, but other musical streaming services around the world as well. 30% of my audience comes from radio services, which would be like Spotify Radio, Pandora Radio, Slacker Radio, iHeartRadio, things like that. And so one thing I've learned over the years as a recording artist is that, building public playlists, it's people do eventually find things that way. They are looking for something. They are using search services. And I don't mean like search engines, but when you're in the app, they're looking for something. And it depends on where your playlist or your graphic or your however is presented. And they're all presented differently on all the services. And so that's why I always say to musicians, recording artists, and things like that, you should subscribe to multiple streaming services. You should know how your music is presented, and even playlists. When you put your name in or you put a type of playlist in, where does it show up in the scheme of things? From the general search through playlist search through however. I mean, the days of Google and all search engines, that's just, if you're still thinking in that mode, that's from I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. That's changed. The horse has left the barn. So what you have to do is you have to be very mindful of the way that your music is being presented on all these different services, and discovery. Can people discover it on there? So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing lately, just because I've been so busy with stuff. But I always try to find the time. Usually it's just about the first thing I do in the morning, or maybe I'm on a break from the day job and I go and make some graphics, create a playlist, get it distributed out there to a bunch of different services. That's what I've been doing lately. And everything else, haven't had much time for. But if I can spend like half an hour, 45 minutes during the day doing something like that, maybe it will lead to something, right? Consider everything an experiment, right? Like number 7 here. If you work, it will lead to something. It's the people who do all the work all the time who eventually catch on to things. I'll tell you one thing about making playlists is I have gotten better at it in the last 10 months here. I have gotten better at selecting graphics, cropping graphics, titling them, text, uh, descriptions. How did the descriptions work on different services? How much do you 300 characters, 500 characters, 1,000 characters? Are those characters in there? Do they have search capabilities? If you stick a name in there, does it kind of, yeah, some do, some don't. What about foreign languages, right? Not everybody speaks English on the planet, right? Speak English. Do you understand it? And there's a lot of people around the world that don't. So your playlists, even though they may have songs with titles in a certain language, are those playlists in the description? Can they at least capture a little bit of that audience, that global audience? Because, what is it, 450 million people today in 2021 subscribe to music streaming services around the world, and that number is expected to rise to 2 billion by 2030. Even if it doesn't rise that high, I mean, that's a significant audience, and they're looking in their language, and I'm just saying. So what I do, at least with regard to the street, the playlist, is I consider myself, I'm building for the future. I'm not only trying to, as I always like to say, people aren't looking for your music; they're looking for the kind of music that you make. So you have to present that self in a particular way, and that's what I've discovered over the time. All right, so we'll knock this out of the way here, and yeah, we have to show this. I know I keep showing this all the time, but God, it's such a good quote. So the Brian Eno was interviewed in the Believer magazine. I think it was 2011. It was reprinted in Salon a few years later. And the interviewer asked Brian Eno, if you could email your 20-year-old self about what was ahead, what would you tell him? Or would you tell him nothing and let him get on with it? And Eno said, I think I'd say put out as much as you can. Doesn't do anything sitting on a shelf. My feeling is that a work has little value until you release it, until you liberate yourself from it and your excuses for it. It's not quite finished yet. The mix will make all the difference. Until you see it out there in the world along with everything else, you don't really know what it is or what to think of it, so it's of no use to you. And that has been kind of my guiding principle, or principle. It's my motivational for the last 5 or 6 years here. Yeah, go ahead and release everything. I don't release everything. I do have a bit of an editing process. A lot of stuff does get thrown away, but it did allow me to go. This sort of philosophy here allowed me to go and release music under different pseudonyms and fake band names, and that stuff on some services, there are people listening to it. It's really amazing, and I wouldn't. If I had not read this, I would not have been inspired to do that so much. I always used to think, well, I make a whole bunch of tracks and then I pick the best ones and then I release it and I have one release a year. And that's old fashioned thinking, man. So, yeah, I do try to keep this best stuff for Mark Rushton, but I have released a lot of wonderful, wonderful tracks under a lot of the different pseudonyms and fake band names I do. So anyway, I repeat this all the time, but I have to repeat it all the time just because it's such if you have advice or inspiration that's really good, you should keep saying it all the time. Try to keep yourself inspired there. And then, of course, hold on here. Red cup. Andy Warhol. I just love his book, The Philosophy of Andy Warhol. Just fantastic. But this quote, Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't think about making art. Just get it done. Let everybody else decide if it's good or bad, whether they love it or hate it. While they are deciding, make even more art. So good. That's inspirational. And, right now I'm not in a position where I really have the time or the mental capacity to devote to making wonderful paintings like this. However, I do have a stockpile of music. I am getting it out there, getting it released. So at least and I do make a few new pieces every now and then, but it's not like I have the time or the mental wherewithal to really be kicking it into gear like I had in the past. That'll return. That will return eventually. Um, Things will change, and I'll have time for that sort of stuff. So there's that. All right. So what was I saying here? 200 drawings as motivation. We go back to this. Sister Karita Kent. So I found this article on Getty, and it's about um, Sister Karita Kent's work. A Los Angeles printmaker and nun. So yeah, she had a lot of this sort of stuff, sort of pop art inspired things back in the 1960s, and blah blah blah. Here's an article, and then down in here, it talked about this is evidenced in issues. They're talking about she never wanted to be a celebrity artist. Uh, she focused her full attention on whoever was in her presence, and blah blah blah. This is evidenced in her infamous massive class assignments. If your teacher asks you to make 200 drawings or stare at your arm for 3 hours and draw it without looking at your paper, you can't very well pay much attention to her. You need to focus on the task at hand. And this is 200 drawings. That can you imagine having art teachers just like okay, I want you to make 200 drawings. It's like, oh yeah. I remember in drawing club when I went to art school, we would draw from the model or whatever, and we would have 15-second drawings, 60-second drawings, that sort of thing. You try to get that the swoop and the arc and you fill out the page and as fast as you could get the basics down as quickly as possible. There was some reason for that, I guess. Actually, I enjoyed doing that, but 200 drawings. Like, your assignment for this weekend is to make 200 drawings. And back then, I was like, oh my God, what have I gotten into? But I look at what I'm doing with the playlists, making a few a day, a few a day. If I make three a day, that's like over 1,000 in a year. And then you distribute those out to, I distribute my playlists out to 12 different services. What is that? It's like over 12,000 playlists on most of them aren't going to do anything. It's like the cottonwood seeds. There's a cottonwood tree down the road, big old thing. And this year was the crazy year of just hundreds of thousands of seeds. They were just piled up like snow on the roadway and the driveway. I had to go out there with my air mover leaf blower thing and blow them out of the way. Of course, a lot of them sprouted. You have to take care of that. But the point is, you have all these seeds out there. The tree is trying to reproduce, and um, it's the same sort of thing with the playlists. It's like sending little satellites off into outer space, and maybe they beam a little bit of information back home, but they all beam in something different back. That's I don't know. That's kind of 200 drawings. So yeah, that's the 200 drawings is motivation. So I read that and I thought, you know what? Somebody somebody who could produce something as brilliant as this, suggesting to their students that they make 200 drawings, that's somebody you need to pay a little bit more attention to, because I'm now in that vein as far as just for myself. I'm not saying to other musicians, yeah, you should go out and make 200 playlists or 2 a day or 3 a day or something like that. If you want to do that, that's fine. I don't know whether it works long term on all the services. I know on some services it does help a little bit. So that's just my experience with it. You're gonna have to find your own road. I'm certainly not going to be sitting out here going, "Oh, well, here's your way to internet riches." Just placing small classified ads in the newspaper, right? Yeah, no. It's not like that. It's for me. It's a way to continue to be inspired, learn new things, and as I like to say, figure out how to sell that song 100 ways, 200 ways, 500 ways. How people aren't looking for it one way; they're looking for it many ways. They'd like to come across that. And so just getting the listeners is great. Getting fans is I don't really care about fans. I certainly don't want to have the problem that superstars have with fans. Absolutely not. Not interested in that. So anyway, that is it for today. Saturday, August 14th, 2021. Gonna play a little disc golf later and maybe hit the gym tomorrow. Probably Monday though. I'm back. Yeah, I'm continuing to go to the gym two or three nights a week, and mainly with working with the weights and the rowing. Getting the jawline back rather than the jowl line. So give me a few more months here, and trying to eat a little bit more low carb, all that sort of stuff. Good grilling time. Anyway, that is it for today. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks.